I'm coming out of the closet here as a Travis Tritt lover. I love Travis Tritt.
You know, his music's a little bit wild, and I kind of like some of it, but you can't fight his name. That's the best name for a country singer ever.
Absolutely. And that particular song's my favorite, his Trouble. It's an old Elvis song. Elvis put it on an album, and it never really did anything, never got any airplay.
Yeah.
Travis finds it, sends it to number one, and it stayed at number one for a long time for a country single. But I love the opening line of that song. I play an old guitar from 9 till 1:30. I'm just trying to make a living watching everybody else having
There
fun.
we go. It is 8:46.
It is.
We have another segment to go with you. Live from La Divina, by the way. Open now for table service if you social distance yourself properly. And all the great breakfast, lunch, and dinner at La Divina. And, of course, it's Friday night. If you haven't been out, you might want to come here and grab a little dinner.
Franz Borghart's still with us as our guest. What's
guys.
that you eating there, boy?
So I do frittata omelets. As you guys know, I'm on a low-carb diet, so I can pretty much put some veggies and cheese in there, and then I got some Italian sausage on the side. I love this place.
So what you got? You got a little broccoli on that omelet?
No, it's spinach. It's
spinach?
spinach. Yeah. But look, guys, the food here is just amazing.
Oh, it always has been. I love it. A few weeks back when they did the fettuccine Alfredo, got some of that, took it home to the missus for lunch. That was on Good Friday. It was absolutely wonderful.
Fettuccine Fred with shrimp.
And they do paschettis with meatballs. It's really, really good. And they also make a wonderful baked lasagna here. So. And don't forget real Italian gelato. Kids love this stuff. It's a great place to bring the kids, man. Set them down, force some gelato down them.
Yeah.
And watch them bounce off the walls for the rest of the afternoon.
Healthier than ice cream.
And never go to sleep. Yeah, it's great. It's great, guys.
Well, and again, the freezer and all the stuff came from the original gelato store here in Baton Rouge. A retired cardiologist, of all things, who unfortunately died unexpectedly of a heart attack. I'm not joking. But it was
eating gelato.
Yeah, it was at the corner of Bocage Boulevard and Jefferson Highway.
Look, there's Betsy Barnes watching us, man. Hi, Betsy.
Hey, Betsy, how are you?
My friend Jack is on.
Everybody
It's like
is
romper
with us.
room. I should hold up the mirror, and then I see Bobby. I see Sissy.
So you
Just kidding, guys.
do you remember the song or whatever it was, the little poem?
I actually never ever watched Romper Room. I mean, it would be on, but I just go right by it.
I was forced.
Even when I was a little kid, I didn't watch it.
I was forced. My mom was, you're going to watch Romper Room because it's educational.
It was one of those.
Okay.
It was one of those weird shows. It was regionally produced, so there'd be like Miss Peggy in New Orleans, and then there'd be Miss Patty over in Tampa. It was weird.
They might have had Stompa Room here because a lot of people down in the bayou, they like to call their oldest son Stompa.
Do they?
Yeah.
That's new.
It's all part of the wonderful use of the English language we have in our state.
English is a dying language, my friend.
Isn't that a shame? Actually, English is a language that's being killed.
How many people?
It's not dying; it's being murdered.
How many people think you, meaning addressing not me, but you, is spelled you? No Y, no O, just you.
How many people think a baby lamb is spelled Y-O-U? How many people know that a baby lamb is called a U?
Yikes.
Yowzer. Anyway, but we were talking about lack of education and how it affects people who do what Franz does, people who are defense attorneys. And what is interesting, Franz, have you not noticed that members of the general public individually, they don't seem to give a rat's ass about, got your check yet? Call me, I'll get it done.
It's interesting to me because there is that portion of society that thinks all attorneys, white-gloved attorneys, criminal defense attorneys, we're all bad. And then there's that sector of society that thinks that criminal defense attorneys are the worst of the worst and don't really mind the 18-wheeler standing on top of attorneys.
I love that guy just because he pumps so much money into the local economy.
I don't have a problem.
God bless him, man.
So my issue is this: to look at a public defender and to say the public defender's office is the reason our city's not safe, or to look at a defense attorney and say, I can't believe you represent, quote unquote, these people and you're making the city less safe, is a fundamentally flawed view of our Constitution and how society really works. So, and again, look, and I'm going to say this because it gets lost sometimes. Understand, there's a spectrum of my clients. Some of my clients are innocent, and I mean factually innocent. They're accused of doing something they didn't do.
Yep. This is where I was going to go.
Yeah, some of them are not. Okay, but my job on every single case is not to quote unquote get the client off. My job is to put them in the best position I can put them in while ensuring the exercising of their constitutional rights they get. And by the way, if you don't get to exercise your constitutional rights, the next person's not going to get to. It's a slippery slope for me.
Well, this is the thing that bothers me. There are so many people that are vocal about, oh, just, take him to the courthouse and hang him and shoot him twice in the head. We don't need no trial. And that kind of volcanic ignorance bothers me. And is this a fair thing to say that a job of any defense attorney, that the primary job is to A, ensure that the trial is fair and unbiased, B, ensure that the prosecutor carries their burden and proves their case beyond a reasonable doubt? Is that
Correct.
not really the primary job?
That is the primary job. Now, you sometimes never get that far. Sometimes you look at a set of facts, you say, okay, I need to not focus on whether or not he or she did it. I need to focus on mitigation. I need to focus on giving the prosecutor, giving the government a reason not to light this defendant on fire, or a reason to not worry about this defendant. Okay, I've said on your show before, I've said on other shows, the system works in so much as we take risk on human beings. We don't put the first-time offender in jail for the rest of their life, unless it's, of course, a life offense kind of case. So that all being said, what was interesting to me was during the COVID-19 pandemic, in the early stages when people became constitutional scholars and became angry because the government was trampling on their rights, these are the same folks, and I'm generalizing, but these are the same folks that tell me the kind of things we've been talking about, like, man, I can't believe you represent these people, and man, they became civil rights activists in a heartbeat when it affected them. And that's, candidly, guys, that's what pisses me off. Is if you don't like criminals, guess what? I don't like that we have a lot of crime in our city. But you don't get to be a selective activist to where I'm just not going to really care until it affects me, because that makes you a poor advocate.
Do you feel it's true that it depends on who the accused is as well, whether or not the defense attorney is a scumbag or a hero? There are some people that when they're accused, they're generally well liked and well thought of, and they go, oh man, that Louis Unglesby, he got the governor off, that kind of thing. I don't know if I'm citing anything factual, but you know what I'm saying? There are some that are hailed as heroes for doing their job.
I don't know that
and others are scumbags because they defended that guy.
I don't know that we have the O.J. Simpson environment where there's a Dershowitz, there's a what's his name?
Johnny Cochran?
Cochran, or a.
Glove don't fit,
we
you
have
must quit.
We have some stars in our constellation of defense attorneys, but candidly, look, let's not mince words about it. The worst of the worst criminals in Baton Rouge generally have public defenders.
Yeah.
Because they're committing the worst of the worst crimes, and they really genuinely cannot afford.
They're destitute.
Yeah, they can't
That's
afford.
why they're committing crimes.
Well, I don't know if the economic disparity is the reason they're committing crimes, but what I know is someone that doesn't have a whole bunch of money is not going to be able to pay for a house to afford their offense.
Right.
Well, I think we have to get into the entire spectrum of, are people choosing to be ignorant for effect, or are they really not getting the factual basis of our Constitution in school? I mean, in other words, are they told, here's the Constitution, read it when you get a chance, have a nice day, now let's learn about equity, diversity, inclusion? Or are they saying, here is Article 1. This is what it means. This is what's been upheld by the courts. You know, I remember when I was a junior in high school, we had half of an entire semester on the Constitution of the United States and what it really means, and why it's important to have a presumption of innocence, why it's important to have an aggressive adversarial system.
I think there's a certain level of self-interest and blissful ignorance. Take, for example, First Amendment rights during the COVID-19 pandemic. Constitutional scholars coming out of the woodwork. You can't curtail my right to exercise religion. Mm-hmm. And I very calmly said, well, actually, your right is not absolute. And I had people, non-lawyer people, no. My right to free exercise of religion is an absolute right.
Because preacher tells me that, who's not an attorney.
Yeah. I'm like, no. And I don't. And look. To be fair, I don't expect a citizen who's not a lawyer to have the same constitutional education that a lawyer or law student would have. Not that every law student is a constitutional scholar, but I do think that it's a I don't have to worry about that unless it affects me. I don't have to care about that unless it affects me. And then when it affects me, again, it's that self-righteous indignation of how dare the government say that I can't physically go to a church and I have to watch it on YouTube or Facebook Live.
That's government getting between you and God.
Right.
Separation of church and state, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people don't understand that phrase either.
Same thing with due process.
Mm-hmm. Byron, again, with good thought. Speaking of history, a lot of these same folks should be reminded how John Adams defended British soldiers when everyone else wanted to tar and feather or worse, execute them. This was, after the Revolutionary War was over, and there were still a lot of British soldiers over here that were being detained on U.S. soil. People wanted to just summarily kill them. And instead, he defended them.
So
they were doing their jobs.
And then first we'll have to tell them who John Adams is.
Oh, yeah, kids. John Adams was one of the founding fathers. Mm-hmm. And was he second
president?
Second president.
Yeah, John Quincy was like 5.
Hey, there's a great
HBO
there's a great HBO series on it. Get your history there. No, it's the same thing with due process. People don't care.
That's not the one where Sam Adams does parkour, is it? Because I saw that one. It kind of sucked.
Back to what I was talking about.
I am deadly serious, by the way.
I know you are.
Sam Adams doing parkour. What the hell?
Did you drop something?
No, I didn't. So, my senses. So, take, for example, jury duty. And this is the one I'll get on my soapbox for a second. I may never run for political office, and I'll be content not to. But when you start talking about civic duty, the biggest civic duty that you will probably do, unless you run for office or serve on a governmental agency or board, is be a juror. That is the biggest, besides voting.
And paying your taxes.
Serving on a jury is the biggest contribution to society that you will theoretically make. And by the way, it allows you to be a part of the justice system. And I cannot tell you, and I'm okay that you don't want to be a juror. I cannot tell you over the last 14, 15 years how many human beings I've seen deliberately try to get out of jury duty, which at most generally is a 1-week obligation. And sure, family obligations, sick family members, work obligations, all this stuff, great excuses. But it is disgusting to me that the same people that will look at defendants accused of crimes and complain, bitch and moan about, oh, we're too soft on criminals and this, that, and the other, will not contribute their own time and energy to the justice system to make it work.
And this surprises you. Why?
It's disappointing. Not surprising, disappointing.
One of the phrases I find myself using more and more often in this community, and sometimes outside of this community, is consider the source. You know, when some yahoo with 8-foot tires and hair down the back of his neck and tattoos all the way up his nostrils, who's screaming and yelling and, comes around a corner at 70 miles an hour and fishtails, into people on the sidewalk and laughs about, and then he jumps out, yeah, look at this. And by the way, I don't think that guy should have a criminal defense attorney. Why would you even consider what this guy has to say?
Well, we probably wouldn't keep him as a juror, but nonetheless.
The thing is, I've said this before. Somebody, and I think it might have been Richard. If it wasn't Richard, I'm sorry, but somebody posted, we are fighting two things. We are fighting COVID and we are fighting stupidity. And we have for a long time in this state treated stupidity as if it was a virtue. And in the last 5 years, we've elevated it to a science. We appreciate stupidity in all of its forms far more than we appreciate reason, intellect, and education. And I defy anybody to show me any examples to the contrary.
I don't disagree with that at all. We see it firsthand. You have the good sense to wear gloves, and then and I'm going to use a word here, you're an asshole such that you would take the gloves off after you go to the grocery store and dump them in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's self-centeredness, it's stupidity, it's any number of things.
Mm-hmm.
But candidly, guys, look, there are some folks that you can try to lead them to the well and explain to them. I mean, if I had $1 for every time I get asked, what's it like representing guilty people, I wouldn't have to be a lawyer.
But here's the deal, folks. There are roadmaps. There are guidebooks. There are encyclopedias on each and every individual that walks this earth. All you have to do is pay a little bit of attention. If somebody is coming up to you and they are dressed like every other person that says to you, I don't give a shit about anything, chances are they're one of them. If somebody walks up and they look like they're polite and you're on the same line and they move to the right and you move to the left and they say good morning, chances are there's one of those. We have garanimals for people, but nobody likes to pay attention. There is a roadmap on every swinging dick walking this earth. And if you can't tell who's a horse's ass from who isn't, you need to start paying better attention.
The part of Mr. Potty Mouth today is being played by Bill Profita.
We cannot get...
I haven't said any of the big ones.
So we can't get folks to drive sensibly.
Nope.
Right.
In a device, in a machine that is literally a death weapon.
The Deathmobile, yeah.
Right.
Nope.
We can't get people to drive within certain speed limits. We can't get them to drive sensibly. And you know what I think it more so is? Being considerate. And it comes full circle to the conversation we had in the first segment. There is the individual that is gracious when you do something for them and is thankful and wants to compensate you, and that person you're probably more inclined to say, no, you're good. Then there are the rest of the world where they're, and I'm not a hypocrite. I have inconsiderate tendencies. But that being said, it's being tone deaf to the people around you and just not caring. And then what happens is the poop hits the fan in your life, and you're the one who's more self-righteous than anybody else.
Well, what I always love is I have a great many friends that carry a weapon.
Sorry, I'll tell you in a moment.
That have, that have a concealed carry permit, and I would consider almost all of them to be perfectly reasonable, responsible people, and it doesn't bother me that they carry a weapon. But I've had a few over the years. And it's like, I see that store, it says no firearms allowed, even, with concealed carry permit holders. I ain't going to shop there anymore. And I'm going to tell everybody else not to shop there anymore. And then I say, well, what if somebody wants to come into your house with your kids and leave their Glock sitting on a low end table? You okay with that? Well, hell no. I said, well, that's your house, right? Yeah. I said, that store is their house.
Yeah.
You're an idiot.
You don't have to shop there.
So at the break,
You're an idiot.
I know we're running out of time, but at the break we were talking about masks and mask wearing, and Kevin, I know your position on this topic, right? And I'm okay with it. And candidly,
I've got a mask in my pocket
no.
because I've worn it
but
to
my
make other
point
people
is,
feel better.
My point is, is when you start talking about businesses doing certain things. If you choose not to shop at a business because you have to wear a mask, why is it okay for you to put them on blast? Why do you have to destroy? That's the other thing that really
See, I
gets
would
under my
never-
skin.
I would never do that.
No, the attempt to destroy, search and destroy is another topic for another show.
Well, again, that's what I call, it's the AH syndrome.
Yes.
And you know what? We embrace that. We love it, even when it's uncalled for. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times to be an AH, and there are times when it's constructive.
Actually, it's all one word, just an A.
Yeah.
You ever get the feeling that
Yeah,
some
but they don't
people are
understand
just...
what I mean if I say AA.
You ever get the feeling that some people are just naturally good at being an AH?
Yeah,
And
I-
some people have to work at it? Yeah.
Pick
Yeah.
me. Pick me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've had I've had situations where I saw a mask required, and I went, well, you know what? I don't have one with me, and I don't really need to go in there right now. And I just turned around. And then the other day, I told this story the other day. I went to Fresh Market over on Perkins. 2 signs, one in the parking lot before you get to the door saying, if you don't feel well, please don't come in. Then you get into like the little foyer where you get your shopping cart before you go into the store floor, and there's another sign on the door that says, we are asking all of our customers to please wear a mask while inside the store. And then said, if you don't have one, ask an employee. I went in, I didn't have a mask, and I felt real awkward, and I was like turning my back on people when they came by, so I found an employee, and she hands me 2 masks. And so I said, you know what, just for everybody to feel better, and plus I want something from this store, I wore the mask, I comply, what the hell, it's like, but, no, I'm not going to go home to Facebook and put them on blast. And
So
Fresh Market made me wear a mask.
week
screw
number
them.
one of this virus, I was sitting right where Bill was sitting one afternoon drinking some coffee,
Ew.
and a woman came in who said to one of the young men that was working the counter, "Man, I really did not have a mask on. Man, I really don't feel good. Everybody thinks I have the virus, and I maybe should go to the." I'm listening to her say all this, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Totally tone deaf, totally inconsiderate, totally just self-absorbed. Okay? And I'm not talking about the person that goes into the pharmacy that's sick, who's desperate to get that medicine.
Yeah, they have to get their prescription.
I'm talking about somebody who ordered a gelato, which was probably a delicious gelato. Shout out to Ladavina.
A couple of quick comments here. What we were talking about the putting on blast. Tommy Doran says, George's with the recent China virus is a perfect example.
Oh, and by the way, the Georges on Highland Road, which I think is the one they were blasting, I passed that 4 or 5 times a week. So yesterday, I actually pulled into their parking lot. There are no windows that would even hold that type of sign on the front of that building. So I want to know where the photo came from, because it didn't come from George's Highland.
And I just picked up food from George's on O'Neill, George O'Neill, the other night, and I saw no such sign on any of their windows.
And I'm not saying there's no such sign, but there's no windows that would actually hold a sign that anyone could view. So did they schneid Smokey? Did someone make that up?
I don't know. I have no problem with calling it the China virus or the Wuhan virus. Of course, I'm a white guy, but
You're insensitive.
Well, we have for generations referred to viruses by where they came from. The Spanish flu, the Hong Kong flu, German measles. I mean, we've done this.
Oh, this is George's on Perkins.
Call
Okay.
it whatever.
Thank you, Tommy.
Call it whatever you want. It's bad business. It's a sucky virus, and whatever you call it's not going to change what we're all going through.
But
Now-
you know what?
Go ahead, please, and then I'll share one more thought.
We
with you.
worry about tiny little elements of random factoids, and we never parse them. We don't care to parse them. But we just like to look past the blatant bad behavior that is endemic in our society, and that makes me freaking crazy.
Well, it's because we collectively go, oh, well, what are you going to do? You can't kill them.
You can't,
No, you can't, unfortunately.
Franz. Think it over.
You can't. Tony,
business has been slow lately, so I'm always looking for new leads.
Tony Lightfoot shares that he had to go off on somebody for smoking at the gas pump the other day. It's like, why do you even have to mention this to someone? And here's a final thought for you all from one of our, and thank you, every one of you who is watching, whether you comment or don't comment. All we ask is that if you have the time, please like and share and tell somebody about the podcast and the TV show. Tommy, wow, I just put the Watch Facebook app on my Fire Stick. You guys are on my big screen. You look better on my phone.
Truth.
We can't deny that.
My daddy always told me I had a face for radio.
I guess this,
Gentlemen,
this
thank you
basis-
guys for letting me come play with you guys this morning.
Always,
Well, thank
Franz.
you,
You're
Franz.
always welcome. We always have a microphone ready for you. It's been a fun morning. I hope that you have a safe and somewhat, I don't want to call it uneventful, but I hope the events are all good ones for Memorial Day
Yeah,
weekend.
and please remember what Memorial Day is for. It is to honor those who have lost their lives in the service of our country. This is not supposed to be a, hey, crawfish boil and beer holiday. Take a moment to reflect on those who have made the ultimate sacrifice.
Well, you might want to consider, if you have such a person, a veteran who died in service to the country, go visit their gravesite. Make sure it's nice and clean. Put some flowers there, something like
or
that.
at least say a little prayer, perhaps.
Until we talk again on Tuesday morning on Exiles TV, Pelican Broadcasting, we bid you farewell. Stay safe.
Ta-ta.
God bless.